group as well. ForGG, though, definitely not an easy opponent.
And I did see earlier, Snute tweeted saying, oh, I just saw my groups for, WCS. I'm actually feeling very comfortable with this. So, it's going to be very, very exciting.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, let's hop into game number 1. The map is going to be Frost, and spawning over here in the top left position as the blue Terran player playing for Team Millennium, ladies and gentlemen, we have none other than ForGG. And his opponent spawning in the bottom left position as the red Zerg player. He represents TeamLiquid.net. Let's hear it for Snute.
Yeah, sorry, I'm getting used to this keyboard. And yeah, so here we are on Frost LE, a 4-player map, which whenever you have a 4-player map, you can always play a little bit greedier and stuff like that based off that. Because, of course, you scout your opponent later, so if, of course, you take a risk, it normally gets found out later, and, it's harder to punish off that. Of course, I was watching WCS last night, and Paulo was talking about, of course, how, TVZ is such a scripted matchup. It's, it is so solid. It's always pretty much a hatchery versus the either command center or barracks into into Reapers or reactor factory.
Well, we're not going to have a particularly scripted performance this evening because I think ForGG is looking to get things started on a particularly aggressive note here as we see the first barrack coming down in the middle of the map. And he's picked this location, of course, right in the middle next to the watchtower for various reasons. First of all, it's equidistant from both the bottom spawning locations. He doesn't technically have to scout where his opponent's at in order to build this. Secondly, it's very weird because it's kind of converse to logic, but building these barracks right next to the watchtower, especially to high-level play, sometimes can be the least likely place your opponent would scout for some sort of proxy. This is Frost, it's a huge map, people expect to play macro. You do not typically see this kind of opening here, and we've got 2 barracks, no gas being taken at home, there'll be no Reapers. This is going to be straight-up Marines for the win.
Yeah, absolutely. No, Snute hasn't gone for gas after his hatchery first, or the pool, or anything like that. So he should have that extra drone, of course, more resources to bank upon if something does happen. So he is gonna go down here. He's not. Yeah, he is scouting now. Okay, or was he going for? Oh, actually, he's going to the watchtower, so he might actually see this.
Oh, this is huge, actually, really big for Snute. He's going to go to the watchtower. He's actually going to pass the SCV. Is he going to go and attack the SC? Okay, he did just for a second, but now, if he wasn't sure before, he really is now. The first 2 Marines are going to spot the drone, and Snute is going to be back at home, going into full defense mode right now. A number of drones coming out preemptively to try and kill off the SCV that might be making a bunker. The hatchery at the natural has completed, and the first thing that happens is that spine crawler goes down. The bunker now being targeted down by 4 of those drones. It's not going to be enough to finish it off, or is it? There we go. Manages to kill it off. Actually, no cancel on that.
Oh, and he did get a drone there. There is another SCV, of course. It does start the next bunker, and another SCV here to back it up. The spine crawler does get killed off. More SCVs are coming in total. How many does he have? Is it 6? Yeah, 6. So this is a lot of extra DPS and buffer in there. The Marines pulling backwards to try and pick up whatever they can. And Snute's going all out here, running all the way out, trying to pick them off, and he does get a decent surround. Will he be able to clean up all the Marines for us?
Well, back in the base, we've got the Queen coming out as well, and that's going to be the range attack necessarily. Try and pick off the SCV building this bunker. He does manage to do so, but there are 4 more SCVs. Great zoning out there by the drones. Is it going to be enough? The Marines at the ramp at the natural expansion, trying their best. The SCVs now, they finish the bunker, but can the Marines even get to it? The Queen there trying to defend. A couple more drones. Zerglings are gone. Marines are going to get in, and I think this might end up being the beginning of the end here. He needs to be able to break out. There are still 3 SCVs. They can repair the bunker. That's the problem right now. Without those SCVs, Snute might be able to get enough Zerglings to just try and rush out and kill it off. Albeit he would take a lot of losses, but right now the bunker can be repaired. There's no Baneling nest. There's no gas being taken from the Zerg player. And I think this is looking pretty dire, unfortunately, for game number 1.
It really is. There are a lot of units trying to get this bunker. The SCVs are repairing each other, but the GG does get called that from Snute. So game number 1 goes fairly fast in ForGG's favor.
Yep, that's absolutely right there. Unfortunate for Snute. ForGG just unable, unfortunately, to... He didn't really need to do anything. Snute was between a rock and a hard place. Unfortunately, getting that bunker up is I mean, it is a bunker rush. It's absolutely huge, right? But waiting for the Queen to come out and using the Queen's range attack to attack the SEV, Snute managed to kill it off before the bunker was complete. That tends to be a bit of a mainstay for these kind of defenses. You scout that the barracks are incoming. You scout that the Marines are going to be in your base soon. You see the natural expansion's about to finish. You go, okay, I've got creep coming out from my hatchery now. The bunker has to be a bit further away.
Yeah.
Queens are going to be coming out next. They're going to be able to kill off the SEVs. In theory, if I micro this perfectly, I should be able to severely dent this attack. But then ForGG had the foresight to pull those additional SCVs as well. The SCV got picked off. Snute did mostly everything right.
What I find really impressive is the fact that ForGG proxied on Frost. Like that I find is like, wow, did you actually just do that? And he fair enough, you have a high chance of getting it.
It's what you don't expect, man. I mean, we've seen like ZVZs on Frost with early pools and all sorts of stuff, right? So he successfully caught Snute out, and fair play to him there. Proxying at the Watchtower, you're right. Unusual play on Frost. We'd expect to see kind of macro-oriented games. ForGG saying, look, mate, I think I can get a great advantage over you just by getting those aggressive games in early. I actually get the feeling, based on what I understand from ForGG's playstyle here as well, that he's likely to go aggressive in game number 2 as well.
Possibly. And it is another 4-player map. It's Altruism Stronghold. For those who don't know, the veto system that we have done is veto into a loser's choice, just to give that the loser a little bit of an advantage, a chance to regain some ground.
And Ultzim, I think, was the
first one ForGG vetoed.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So Snute knows that, and he goes, well, if it's going to be loser picks, and the vetoes are only for picking the starting map, I'm going to pick the map that you vetoed first, to try and gain a little bit of a psychological advantage there. We're going to be hopping into game number 2, though, now, guys, so let's get into the game and see what these players have to offer. Are we going to see aggression coming out once more from our red Terran player over here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map? He represents Team Millennium with that proxy at the Watchtower. Takes game number 1. He's got one more to go, though. His name is ForGG.
And his opponent, spawning all the way at the top out here on Altruism Stronghold, needs to win this to stay in the series. It is, of course, going to be a Liquid Snute. Or Snute, as it's correct. But for some reason, the interface is kind of bugged. Can you see it? But
oh, wow, yeah, that is
I've never seen that before.
No, I can't say I have either, but you know what? That's not really going to affect our main screen there, so let's just go ahead and keep that around for now. ForGG, of course, currently 1-0 up over his opponent right now. It doesn't look like he's necessarily going to... Well, he's certainly not going to be proxying anything out in the middle of the map. I think this is an even more ridiculous map to do it on than Frost. No watchtowers in the middle of the map there. And, yeah, he's just... it looks like he's just going to be playing out a normal game. He's going for the command center by the looks of things.
Yeah, I wouldn't be... I mean, I'd be surprised if he didn't go for that. And this is a much harder map to proxy because it's asymmetrical as opposed to just standard symmetrical. So it's like you pretty much have to put it in the center if you're going to go for that. Whereas Frost, he went for a more educated guess. There's 2 spawn points that side. I'm going to put it there.
So this is interesting in that ForGG is basically going for what I almost want to say is a more traditional Korean approach, which is the game after a cheese. You say, I'm going to revert to playing a normal style with you knowing that you're a game down. And the onus is on you to do something funky, and I'm going to play my standard macro game. Why we wouldn't necessarily predict it so far is because ForGG is traditionally known as being one of the most aggressive Korean Terrans we know.
Yeah,
the guy is so happy with his timing attacks. He enjoys dropping all over the place. If there's a way to attack you versus a way to just sit at home and safely macro, this guy, his macro is great, but if he thinks the attack might kill you, he'll just go for it.
Yeah,
absolutely go for it.
He is, he doesn't hold any restraints in that. I have casted these 2 players in a finals quite a few months ago. It was the Millennium Show Cup finals, and that didn't go so well for Snute. But I feel like Snute definitely has the possibility to come back from this. I wouldn't count him out just yet. And we do look, well, I'm assuming it's going to be straight up to a reactor factory type of build, so he's going to stop double producing those Hellions, as opposed to, with this command center first, you don't need those Reapers, because by the time you get them out, the circuit speed's probably already done.
And no, you're absolutely right. I mean, the spawning pool, of course, is already done here for Snute. He hasn't taken any gas yet, of course. Still just going to try and macro up as much as he can. There we go, finally getting gas number 1 there. And in the meantime, we have no add-on on the barracks just yet, just squeezing up
He's waiting for the
to a
gas.
little bit more gas now. And here comes the factory straight away.
Yeah, and he's producing a single marine just in case an overload tries to fly in. He's not gonna go immediately to the reactor Hellions. And of course, he goes for the reactor, swaps them over onto the barracks, and then of course he can double produce those Hellions for quick numbers. And Hellions do a great job against Zerglings or even drones if they can get into the mineral line. So Snute does have to be careful that he doesn't let ForGG slip in.
Now, you might be wondering why. Well, hang on a second. That Marine just went straight to the left-hand side of the base. But there isn't an Overlord anywhere close, and that's because if we take a quick look at ForGG's vision, don't forget, guys, this is a huge map. He hasn't actually seen anything outside of his ramp right now. He knows absolutely nothing and doesn't know where Snute has spawned. So that's just in case an Overlord was sent from the top left position down into his base. He'll know, of course, if an Overlord's come from the right because his natural expansion would likely have been scouted by now, which is why he's more concerned with that top left. But in reality, these guys are literally as far apart from each other as the game would physically allow.
Yep, and Snute already knows this as he has scouted the two bases. ForGG kind of just chilling. He's not doing too much. He's of course waiting for those Hellions. Looks like it's going to be Hellion Banshee. Yeah, Hellion Banshee.
Yeah,
so
there's very Wings of Liberty-esque coming out from ForGG here.
Well, it's become a lot more popular since, of course, the cloak nerf came in. Oh, sorry, the cloak buff, as it had a reduce in price. But of course, most of the time you don't actually see that cloak that often. It's been reduced, but of course Banshees have been more viable since then. But he is going for that cloak, and he should go up to at least 2, maybe 3. Of course, the natural or the third base, where the back base is very easy to harass as well. So you can easily sneak the Banshees in there. The Hellions run into the natural or the third base and do some damage.
Yeah, it's certainly possible here. Now, bear in mind, Cloak, still just over an in-game minute before it completes. We've got the first couple of Hellions moving out across the field now. There are going to be 4 of them in total, and the Overlord from Snute does spot them as they move out across the map. He's taking his third and saying, look, mate, your Hellions really aren't going to do very much against a hatchery here. I'm perfectly happy to wait. The Queens are blocking the ramp, and there is absolutely no way for ForGG to get in here. Almost loses a Hellion for his efforts, and 4 Queens here from Snute. Very, very solid opening from him here to try and refute any potential harassment that comes in. The Queens, of course, will be really effective against the Banshees when they pop in as well, but of course only if they can be seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we do have a double evo from Snute, so I'm waiting to see what the attack upgrade is. So if it's going to be, of course, the melee or the ranged, so we can have an idea of what type of composition style he'd like to play. Of course, he is getting his carapace, so at least he isn't, neglecting his evo chambers. He is getting that upgrade. And of course, ForGG is still trying to get some damage done. Here comes the Banshee, though, towards that third base.
Yeah, he's continuing to build these Hellions. There's an awful lot of them on the field right now. 10 Hellions on the field for ForGG, and he's continuing to make them 2 at a time. He is not stopping here as the Banshee comes in, trying to pick off a couple of drones there. There are Spore Crawlers up at all the bases, though.
Yep, so really nice reactions or prediction skills from Snute there to anticipate that. Do you see the double armory that's in production?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're gonna have mech.
This is like, I don't know, man. If we go into like mass Hellbats, this is gonna be the beta all over again. I don't even know if that's if that's even more of a thing than it was before. These Banshees trying their best to do as much damage as they can. We've got 5 kills on one of them at the moment, and another Banshee up front trying to kill off the Queens. There are enough Hellions now that's actually a problem.
Yeah, they're nearly 2 shot on a Queen. That's how many Hellions we do have out here. And they do fry up a lot of the Zerglings that do run out to try and protect them. Queens dropping transfuses to keep each other alive. And a Spore does reburrow to try and fend off that Banshee. Now, the ramp is open, and we could get a split of these Hellions. But he's actually been able to kill all the Queens in one go here. So
yeah, I think with the Banshee support there, I mean, the Spore Crawlers probably had to be in slightly more forward locations. The Hellions just got too great a number. I don't think Snute is just expecting ForGG to come out with quite this many Hellions. This is a really unorthodox build, not something you would typically see TVZ. And Snute now, once again in game number 2 here, he's had a bit of a tough end.
He really has. I don't think he was anticipating this many Hellions. It's it's a bit of a cheeky strategy to just go for loads of Hellions. It's one of those things where if you get in and do the damage, you can just straight up win. But if your opponent smells it coming, and it's very, very easy to defend.
If you've got the Spore Crawlers and you saw this was coming and decided to grab that earlier Roach Warren as well, then the Hellions aren't really going to be able to do too much as long as you keep your ramp blocked, and then you just have to deal with the Banshees. And to be honest, at that point, you've seen so much investment in Hellions that a couple of extra Spore Crawlers out in the middle of the map you're not going to be too concerned with that level of investment. But unfortunately, that's not how this game is played out. And Snute, he's not having a good time right now.
No, he's lost about 30 odd drones, so he's doing really bad behind that. And we do have actually 2 Thor follow-ups from ForGG, and like, well, Snoot's going for Limb Muta, which doesn't do really good against those. So the follow-up is going to be very hard to hold if he can even last that long.
Ooh, oh, wow, and a
that
little
good
bit of a
Baneling?
lucky Baneling hit at the... I say lucky, I mean, he continued to move in, and ForGG just a bit of missed micro from him, really. Picking off 4 or 5 Hellions, but to be honest, the sheer numbers here mean that I'm not sure it's going to be enough for him to come back. The hatchery might actually go down to Hellion fire here, and it does indeed. 74 supply versus 104, and 4GG currently is in the lead in the worker supply, 67 to 53. Snute, though, I mean, credit where it's due. He's doing exactly what he needs to mitigate this damage behind this, just constantly producing drones.
Yeah, pretty much. What Snute does have to be careful of, though, he hasn't scouted the double armory. He hasn't actually scouted anything, so he has no idea what the follow-up is. Based off that many Hellions, you can get a good idea, because obviously that's like 12, 14 Hellions. That's a lot of production time from a factory there.
It's a huge amount of investment, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So he should have an idea, and of course once he sees these Thors, the Hellbats, the Banshee, that should give him a good indicator. Now, Snute is quite far behind. Not far enough where he's definitely out of the game and we're like, oh, why is he still in this?
Yep.
He definitely has a fight chance. He's gonna, have to pretty much make a cheeky move. He's gonna have to take some risks and try and earn an advantage that way, which he is kind of doing while double expanding.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things.
I really like this because if you've seen that many Hellions and you know you've killed the vast majority of them as well, and you suspect your opponent is going mech, then you know it's going to take a little while for that kind of army to mess up. And if you're going to be doing that, then you might as well try and take these bases. But it looks like Snoot's not the only person who enjoys bases.
No, absolutely not. It looks like 4GG. I don't know if he knows like that Snoot pretty much was so far behind he has to take a risk by expanding or something like that. And he's like, well, I'm ahead. I'm going to draw this, or I'm going to make this a long...
Classic is rewriting the metagame, man. My opponent might be taking a risk. I think he might double expand. To defeat this, I need to quadruple expand.
Yeah.
And... well,
Snoot's triple expanded, technically. Well, it just finished up, but still.
I guess that's the direct counter.
Yeah. This is legit macro wars. Are we playing that?
This is me going. This is me like sup son. I guess that's the direct counter here as the command centers are about to finish up for him.
Look at that gas income as well, or the gas bank. He's actually going to be able to afford about 15 meters. He hasn't built any yet, and he already has nearly +1 complete for the flyer attacks, which I find interesting. But I do know Mini Razor has a style where he doesn't build any mirrors, and he knows mech is coming, and he waits until he gets like 2/2 mech of like flyer weapons. Yeah. And he just builds a swarm of them. And because the Terran hasn't seen any, he's not anticipating them, and just a massive bunch just scare the crap out of you. And
well, the problem with that is 3 Thors at a time, man.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can surprise your opponent all you want, but if most of his army composition consists of Thors, you're not gonna have a good time. What though? I think Snute will be able to take advantage of is he's continuing to keep his creep spread pretty decent, which means these mutas have the opportunity to fly around the Thors and try and maybe try and start some sort of base race. But I just don't think he is anywhere close to enough to initiate that.
Yeah, there are 4 or 5 Thors out here. The rest is trickling across the map very slowly. He does have nearly 20 meters, and 20 meters can deal with this if you magic box correctly. The unit control is very good, and he is trying to maybe commit to this, but GG's as he realizes he's not going to win that fight. Even if he kills the Thors, it's still going to take him like 5 minutes to kill all the Hellions, the tanks, the Hellbats. So realistically, he would have lost that base definitely, even if he did kill off the Thors.
He came in and basically didn't see the didn't expect to be engaging the 2 Thors in the back at the same time. As long as they were as long as the Thors were close enough together, they could cover each other by fire. It's just not enough mutas. You have to be sort of sitting there with 35-40, kind of ready to swoop in and absolutely mop up, because there is the possibility that an extra 2 Thors are just going to creep up, are just going to come on to creep as soon as you start engaging. You think, well, actually, I've got enough mutas to handle this. Oh, there are the 2 Thors, and 10 seconds later, the tide of battle's turned against you. So, really difficult situation. Of course, that has everything to do with the Hellions and Banshees at the beginning of that. I think that really is the talking point. It's not something we see players do at the moment. 4GG was already a game up. He went for the command center first and then went, actually, you know what? About that whole massive aggression kind of thing I was thinking about doing, yeah, let's go ahead and do that anyway. All right, I've got some Hellions and some Banshees. what's my next step? I think it's Hellions and Banshees.
It was your standard 10 command center timing, wasn't it?
On a serious note, it just caught Snute completely off guard. You expect to see the Banshees, you counter the Cloak, you've got a couple of Spore Crawlers up, you see the sort of 6, maybe 6 Hellions come on to creep, and then you expect to see the transitions out of it. And Snute maybe played that as he normally would. He didn't grab the Roach Warren, didn't recognize quite how much danger he was in, and ForGG came in all of a sudden. Wait, hang on a second, that's more than 10 Hellions there. This is suddenly becoming a real problem. The Queens alone just don't cut it anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to that. Like, also, like Snute lost so many workers. So he was taking damage, he's building workers. There's so many resources not into units or upgrades, whatever. And holding that type of attack with a good economy from the start of the game can be very hard anyway. So to do that off the back of that, at least he would have wanted to maybe kill off the Thors, maybe force ForGG back, where ForGG's like, okay, I don't have anti-air, I can't really fight here, because it's going to be such a bad trade. And then he pushes him back, and then once again something like that happens again, where he just has a sick engagement near enough. Like it did get to a point where it's starting to be where ForGG has to make a mistake to lose that game.
Yeah, that's right. The economic advantage from the early game was just so much. A mass clump of mutas, like you said, like you rightly said, could have been a solution to that if you magic box correctly and had sufficient number.
Yeah.
But really, Snute would have had to buy himself an extra minute or two and actually get the mutas up to the number they would need to be to counteract that many Thors, and he just didn't have that time. ForGG slammed the door shut and said, look, mate, I've done the economic damage. I want to close this out as soon as possible. And on that occasion, he was able to and takes the 2-0 victory.
Yeah. So he does put himself up in the first game, which is going to put him off to a very, very good start, because of course it's round robin. He's it's not a single elimination or something like that. This game matters.
Yeah, it does indeed, and that means that best of 3 is going to end now with a 2-0 in ForGG's favor. Guys, don't go anywhere. We're going to hop to a quick commercial break, and when we come back, it'll be the next series here at the Gfinity. That's like something out of Starcraft. Starcraft? South Park. I am losing it tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go grab myself an energy drink. You are, though, watching the Gfinity Starcraft 2 Elite Division with myself, Jarosar, and Pewee. We'll be right back after this break. Don't go anywhere.